Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel, hanging out with co-host, producer extraordinaire, Randy Walker. We are broadcasting here in the Detroit Podcasting Company studios here at the Detroit Shipping Company. Guest this week, I'm in between a CTO sandwich here, a CIO sandwich, whatever. You take your pick. Steve York's in the house from Hansen's, the CIO, and we got the CTO here from Renodis, Matt Spivey. Find us online, itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Randall, you want to tee up the meetup?
We are meeting up here 1 week from today, so that is February 20th at the Detroit Shipping Company, 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and we announced this last episode. Neither you nor I will be there.
That's correct. The mice are going to be running the asylum. So everybody's on their own. So there still will be people working at the venue.
Yeah, we just won't be here.
We just won't be here. Actually, Brad Wessner is going to be kind of be the official. He's at all the meetups anyway. So he'll be your guide to introduce people, but no cover, no speakers, just a bunch of IT folks hanging out, having a drink or not having a drink. And
yeah, we'll be upstairs above the bar, so grab a drink downstairs before you wander upstairs.
Indeed. I call it the Nino Brown room, but it's the room overlooking the outside part. So hope to see you out here. Check us out again, meetup.com/IT in the D. Steve, Matt, how you guys doing? Thanks for coming out. The day before the big storm, we were laughing that everyone's like, what do we do? We literally got an email going, we're canceling our quarterly tomorrow night because of the weather. And as I'm looking out the window going, there's no snow on the ground. This reminds me of like kids getting snow days. But I guess welcome to Michigan, right? And then everybody's, can we work from home on Wednesday? Like the snow hasn't fallen yet. So, but again, welcome to Michigan. Good to see you guys. So I had to dive in. Steve, you've been on the show before. Matt, you're a rook to the IT and the D podcast. There's never hazing, but I always like origin stories. Last week, we had my buddy Brad Mitchell on from Mojo host, and we were talking about his first, it was a quarter rack with a burstable 10 meg handoff that cost him like $8,000 a month. And I always like telling these old stories. How did you cut your teeth kind of getting where you got?
Yeah, I started out as an intern doing IT help desk support for United Health. Didn't know anything about computers, but I know that I had an architecture major and I didn't like that. So I got into computers and started doing that. And I guess one of the challenges that I had was I was being proactive and thinking, oh, I'm just going to update all the firmware and software of all the servers and machines, and I'm going to get everything, tidy, and decided to do that at noon.
Oh boy.
On a work day.
Oh boy.
And so I do that. And if you guys remember APC PowerShoot,
Absolutely.
Right, where it used to control all of the battery backups, right? Well, that was the first thing I started to update. And when I did, all of a sudden it was having a failure and started shutting down every server in the server farm. And so that was my first lesson in IT of like, yes, I was going after it, but that's why you do things after hours.
And right? You worked there the next day?
I did, surprisingly. Yeah. My CIO said, look, we're all going to make mistakes. You made that mistake. Just don't make it again.
Yeah. We had guys taking stuff down in Prod. We're like, yeah, you're not coming here tomorrow. Like, it's a no-no. Steve, I know you got a pretty decent history in this town, at least with at least all the names that everybody heard of that you kind of came up in the ranks. What brought you in the industry?
Bobby, I worked for Ford Motor Company and I never thought I'd leave there. And I had a mentor who just said, hey, they switch your shifts every 4 months. I'm like, yeah, it's the big blue oval, right?
Right.
And I probably wouldn't have left, but my mentor said, hey, let me see what I can do. When I was at Ford, I had more robots than people. So it was automation engineering, really.
Sure.
And I met a couple of people and bada boom, bada bing. I left Ford at 29 and I was the VP of Ops for a data processor for credit unions and dove in head first there. I mean, I had high-speed networking and cabling throughout that plant. But first, IT was a leadership role, really. I left Ford and went into a credit union data.
How'd you pull it off? Because that's it's like everybody's
the power of the network, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what it came down to. It's you surround yourself with good people, and they look out for you.
Sure.
In the rooms you may not be in. And I met a whole bunch of people through that network and made it work. And I helped a small $30 million credit union data processor get acquired. Really just took off from there. Left there, we were acquired by CGI Group, big international player. Left there, went to Hayes Lemmers.
Yeah.
Left there, went to Alex Partners.
I think I met you when you were at Hayes originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was there for Hayes' second bankruptcy. And in the process of that, you know, I left and went to Alex Partners because they were there helping. They were helping Hayes with structuring.
Right.
Went to Alex. Went to Secure 20. I mean, it's snowballed from there. The last several rounds have been private equity. Hanson's is owned by Huron Capital here in Detroit. Sure. Right. So you kind of develop a knack and a resume for private equity work, and phone rings. They start calling.
Yeah, PE's been fantastic unless it's with restaurants. Like I think I watched a reel today on what happened to BW3s. Like PE got a hold of them, so now I'm like, just, you know, don't take my Jersey Mikes because I know they just sold for like $8 billion.
They did.
They're like, don't take my, you know,
They
that's
did.
one rung below. Like it's not a Ventimiglia's, but it's a pretty damn good sandwich. But I'm like, if you ruin my Jersey Mikes, but
Yeah, that's where it's got me at Hanson's today, and you know, again, private equity owned. Huron Capital's owned it for 7 years now. So
Yeah,
the market settled down, and let's see what happens.
yeah, Matt, I think I met you when you were at my buddy was, I think, the COO at it was at Great Expressions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. IT leadership there. And,
Yeah.
Don.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good, you know, career. I think that was, you know, one of the bigger, you know, moves that I made into overseeing, you know, an extensive staff and IT operations for, I think at the time they had over 300 locations.
Right.
And that, you know, the same kind of thing, private equity backed. And I stayed in some of that private equity as well when I moved on to Mission Veterinary Partners, about 9,000 employees at their kind of final piece this past year before, you know, they merged some companies, private equity.
Right. So Steve kind of touched on it. I want to double dive back with him, but I want to ask you, like, in terms of anybody that's aspiring leaders, right? I think most people that when they get into this business, right, they always want to be better, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you fall into it, sometimes you earn it, sometimes you bulldog your way in. But like, in terms of like, talk to me about like, was it the network for you? Was it knowledge building? Was like what like climbing the ladder and getting where you got? How did what was your approach?
Yeah, I think for me it was always saying yes, right? When I was starting out, taking on assignments that I may not have known what the outcome's going to be, or just volunteering so that I got, you know, additional information. I got to learn new things. But then it was also the power of really seeking out mentors, right? I think mentors were huge for me. And that's why I like to do servant leadership and pay it forward. And I know that you do that as well, Steve. I think that was bigger for me than just kind of pure networking. It was more seeking out people that you want to aspire to be like, and you see how they lead. That was what helped me.
I guess let's go down that road too. How does that, like, you can't just go ask somebody, hey man, will you obviously it's relationship building and kind of getting like, is it a process? Can you know, cause you can't, again, the process for getting a mentor, it doesn't, you know, there's no applications. It's not a, you know, it's just, again, relationship building, or how did you go about that? Giving and getting. Right?
Yeah. I think for me, you know, there's a little bit of a boldness factor to it. I think, you know, for my first mentor, I think I actually did approach and say, hey, look, I'm new to this. You know, I see that you've been successful. I like the way that you've communicated with some of the others or some of the projects that you've worked on. Would you mind giving me some guidance? So I actually was bold. I didn't necessarily build the relationship first. I saw from kind of the sidelines of what they were doing and their performance.
Yeah.
And I just reached out to them. That's what helped me. I've had people that have reached out to me, and I'm sure Steve has as well, that have been bold and said, hey, you know, I'm just getting into the industry. Maybe I'm a veteran that's coming back, and we've experienced this where they're coming back into the civilian life, and, you know, they just need an opportunity.
Right.
Those are my favorite people to work on because they're hungry and they just need a shot. And so I was afforded a shot. And so I'd like to do that and pay it forward.
Yeah, no, it's great. Steve, I want to get back with you on the network side, because it's, when you talk about mentoring, you know, what Randy and I have been doing for all these years with the job fairs and with the networking thing, And a lot of people are like, man, I sent 200. This is a very common. I sent 250, 300 resumes. I got one phone call. I got nothing. And we're like, granted they're here, they'll say go network. And I'm like, this isn't just, you got to do more than just here. And it's funny. I don't want to it's typically the younger generation. And they're like, well, I call them the Veruca salts. I know it's the immediate gratification, but like, I want it now, daddy, and like they don't realize like these things are like, there's relationships I've had for 20 years that, it's a mutual thing. If I have something to give, I will go. If I don't, I won't, and if I really need something, I have a really hard time asking, but I like to think I built up enough cachet, I guess. Talk to me about like, not advice for the younger gen, but like it's tough out there. It really is.
Listen, it is tough out there.
Yeah.
And I have a mentee right now. I'm a 3-time mentor with the Sim Detroit Rise program. And I talk to a lot of leaders about it, right? You have to build it.
Yeah.
Because the people who don't build it before they need it find themselves surprised when they send out 300 resumes.
Right.
Right. It's also a fact that the higher up the food chain you get, the harder it is to find these.
I've heard a lot of like people saying like, hey, what's a problem I can help you fix? And you can't just go up and ask people that. But I always believed in giving first. And
listen, I believe in giving first too. I believe it's an ethos, right? You give by your nature. And so from my perspective, I'm always leaning in, hey, how can I help with that?
Yeah.
What do you need there? There's a lot of people right now that have unfortunately found themselves out of work, downsizing, restructuring, whatever. Right. But I always tell people it's a full-time job to find a full-time job.
Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of people don't, I'm going to apply for a couple in the morning and then I'm going to go enjoy my day. And okay, the fruits of your labor are going to be based on your investment. And if you are just blindly applying, I tell people if there's a job you want, understand the company, understand how they make money. Hopefully, somebody on the inside, because the best way to get your resume noticed by somebody is for somebody who walks it in and drops it on the top of the pile.
Absolutely.
Right. With all these applicant tracking systems and keywords, stop it. Right. I just tell people, look, build your network, work hard.
Right.
Invest in your community. The Sim Detroit community is 275 leaders. I probably know most of them by name at this point, but you have to seek out that, right? You got to go into a meeting and say, you know what? I know everybody at that table. I know 2 people. I'm going to sit there tonight because it's going to push me out of my comfort zone. That's how you meet people. And then you find out, well, why are you here? What are you looking for?
Right. So I got to throw this one I'll throw it at Matt, and I want to come back. I want you to hear this too, but I've had this conversation probably twice a year for the past probably close to 20 years. And it's someone that's been at a company, and I used to do speaking at the Shifting Gears program back when Governor Snyder had that. And it was like 40, 50-year-olds that were at the same company for 20 years, and they got laid off or they got downsized. And so I talked to someone the other day, 18 years at the same company, IT, ran through basically built everything from scratch, probably more than 3 times in his tenure. Never got a single cert. Never went past probably 20% of masteredness. Is that a word, master? Never mastered more than 20% of a given technology topology. But always handled his business and did it professionally. But now, he never got a big title because this was a 400 or 500 person company. And now he's looking at it going, well, I don't have the title. I don't have the certs. I did a lot of really cool stuff. I never quantified it because I never needed, no one ever asked me to. And now I'm out there and I never networked and I've never done anything. So, guys like that, I had my story and I'm dying to know what you think, in terms of I told him to quantify. I told him, I said, what do you like to do? Go grab some certs. I go, if I passed an AWS Cloud Practitioner cert, anyone can. So I'm like, just go pay the $50 and get a proctored exam, for crying out loud, just so you have a, but what's your take? And, there's more than a few people out there that are in the same scenario. So I'm just curious what your take is to how to get them started.
Well, I think you took my first answer, quantifying, what you've done. It's tough because talking about yourself. Not a lot of people like to talk about themselves,
Hate it.
right?
Hate it.
And what their accomplishments are. It seems like it's very, oh, look at me, right? But you need to do that to build somewhat of a credibility because someone's going to see you on paper, right? So you've got to do that. I think the other thing too is, like you said, get some of those like low-hanging fruit certs and utilize like a LinkedIn, because I think with LinkedIn, I see it all the time where you expect people, they're getting a new job, but it's actually, they've got a new cert, right? So it brings visibility into,
I get a text all the time going, oh my God, I thought you quit. You just got a cert. Like,
right. But it brings visibility
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that person. So I think that's another good one. And then, like you said, maybe do something like what we're doing here is go out and once you've quantified what you've done, get on some podcasts, right? Just talk as an industry expert in some of those things that you've overcome for organizations to show your value. So it's really value creation, right? Because who cares about tenure at one company? Just show the value that you brought there, because you can take that somewhere else.
and no one thinks about it. And that's the one thing we're always taught to work in teams, right? But when you're interviewing, it's like you need to talk about yourself, and it's hard to switch. So I mean, in terms of like on your side, what's some I don't want to say don'ts. I don't want you to throw anyone under the bus, but like what's some things that, we always talk, the STAR method it's not necessarily a new thing, but like, when people tell me about a time when,
listen, I there's a lot of people that have that fit that same story.
Yeah.
18, 20 years with the same company.
Yeah.
Never saw it come in. The message is don't rely on that company will cut you in time.
Right.
Right. If they need to make head cuts, they're going to do that. Your tenure doesn't matter. So what I typically tell people in that situation is you got to reinvent yourself, right? AI is not a difficult, but it's in high demand. So if you're going to focus on a cert, don't go focus on an cloud cert, go focus on an AI cert.
Right.
And you can do that, Proctor, online training. What are companies looking for? Companies are looking for who are going to take these jobs are going to be these young kids who grew up with tech. It's going to put the gray-haired guys like me to the sideline.
Yeah.
But you have to own your own roadmap, and you've got to reinvent yourself. And some of the smartest people I know are people who are so pigeonholed in SAP ABAP program. But then they decided, hey, you know what? I want to get stuck. I don't want to get caught in a pickle. So I'm going to learn AI and other coding languages. That just makes you more marketable.
Sure.
Right. And I think the notion that our generation, our younger kids aren't doing this badge of honor to say, well, my wife's been with me for a long time. And I say,
yeah.
Right. You've got one skill set that you've rinsed and repeat. Great employer for. From my perspective, you look at that and say, what truly makes a person marketable is experiences and managing different things. If you're at the same company, you're probably not managing different.
Well, I had someone that was just 10 years at a company that I won't name, big company we all use every day. 10 years, no severance, shut off at 3, emails off, bennies are off. And I try to tell people like you're a free agent, and they look at me sideways because again, we all grew up. Our dads all worked 30 years at the Fords or at the whatever, at the Chryslers.
Bobby, I told you I left Ford. My dad told me point blank, you are absolutely nuts. Nobody ever resigns and leaves this company. And I'm like, but I am.
Right.
I am.
So you brought up AI. I got to talk about it because, Randy, how many shows did we have in a row that everyone was a digital transformation expert? Or it seemed to be in that space. And I said, what is digital transformation? I think we 20 different answers.
It was so many in a row. And it was weird that the purpose wasn't to have them all on talking about the same thing, but they kind of just naturally drifted into that topic. Right.
We go through these ebbs and flows where we have this like similar guests, but like AI right now is a very weird thing. We sit in front of customers and they're like, if you talk to me about data security and data quality, we're throwing you out. We're like, well, I guess we're not talking AI. But our board said we need to go AI. Well, what do you need to do? And it's such a loose term. Like I don't even like talking about it, even though that's what I do for a living. great, Carnival Cruise Lines, you threw an agent on your website to answer, a fancy search engine. But there's people doing really cool stuff. I mean, for you, I guess, Hanson's, it's interesting, design tools, I guess. How far have you gone down that rabbit hole? Are you immersed in it? Are you?
Yeah, I'd say we're dabbling. We're not the type of company that's going to go out and invent our own.
Right. Right.
But what we're looking for is point solutions. Companies that have innovative technology. A cool tool in our solved a blind spot. We send 130 guys and gals across the country every day to sell them.
Yeah.
And that's a blind spot for it, because while there's training and there's scripts, so we use a product called Rilla Voice. Rilla Voice plugs into the sales guy's iPhone or mobile device, and the entire pitch is recorded, scored. We can look at objection handling. We can look at.
I got anxiety just listening to you.
But it's a scenario where we get an opportunity to understand the customer's experience exactly.
Fair. And
then we know, was that a successful sale? Not successful. It's not successful. Is it not successful? And what we used it for is a training tool.
Yeah.
Because you get people who've been selling home improvements for 20 years that are really, really good at it. You get new people who come in. We have a academy model that we churn in and out a lot of new salespeople. The Rilla AI tool helps make an individual, gives them the ability to self-train. I want to go listen to Matt's successful sales call.
Yeah.
I know which one. We score the successful ones, say these were successful. But it also gives a sales manager the ability to say, hey, you had this objection and you didn't handle it as best as you could. And here's an example of how Sue handled that same objection, and it gives the team the ability to leverage each other's experience, training. Very powerful. I'm a bit of a purist from a tech perspective. Everybody's got AI connected. It's still smoke.
Yeah.
But we're seeing some really good things come out. I've got a VB6 app, and 2 years ago it was a multi. Write that.
Mm-hmm.
Modern day with Gemini Pro and other large language.
Yeah.
It's not. So we're in the middle of an integration project right now. I think when that dies down, we're going to take some source code. We're going to run an experiment. See large language model absorb that code, and it document, and it create training material. More importantly, we're going to ask it to do impactful for business. We're going to ask it to debug and error-proof the current code. Convert that.
Yeah. Are you in the camp that coding's going away in 4 years?
I don't listen.
As we know it today.
I think ultimately coding is going to go. Bobby, I believe that because look, the reality is simply this. And if you get close enough to some of the power brokers in tech, and you're in those circles as well, I think Google's making great strides there. It's in their office in Detroit, and they're talking about speech to code.
Right.
I don't think we're going to be far away. If you get involved in some of these deep experiences, you can do some of it now, as long as you keep the model simple. But if I pull source code in the model and say, hey, tell me about this source code. Are there memory leaks? Are there code defects? Model detect. It's all about prompting. The better you are asking those questions, easier to. Will it convert the code at 100% clean? No, not today. But if it converts it at 80% clean, investment is tens of thousands of dollars versus millions. There's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, we're only 2 years into this.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think in another year there's going to be a watershed moment. We're going to know who the real AI players are.
Yeah.
I think company like Rilla Voice that we use today, we're going to get gobbled by Zoom or somebody who wants those capabilities. So I look at these startups and say, all right, I'm going to get this company for a year before they blow up. Then somebody's going to. I'm willing to run those now. Pay dividends.
my buddy's in the contact center business, and he always talks about like the agent assist. So if you call Carnival Cruise Lines, because I brought him up earlier, but then as you're speaking, there's a sidebar where the AI is picking up what they're saying. They're prompting with, oh, do you want to know more about this? Do you want to? Then they can click and they can kind of instead of going searching or typing or, it's kind of an assistant for, I think that was a cool, like you're always looking for the killer use case.
Exactly.
Right?
And there are so many people, I mean, I'm inundated with, oh, look, we do this for AI, right?
Yeah.
Reaching out.
Yeah.
One of 500 people, AI assisted help desk tickets to, okay,
right.
Great. I don't care. But I think the real transformative stuff, cyber, is going to modernization of. I think those are use cases that there's a lot of. I've been in really big companies.
Do we do mainframe mods for companies right now,
Exactly.
where we have to rewrite the cloud ready the applications and move everything over? Trust me, that's a huge part, and these are 7-8 figure cost projects.
Yeah.
Like to get this stuff because the way the legacy cost to keep the mainframes up is ridiculous. So it's like, well, where do you balance?
You're buying your mainframe support hirees who.
Yeah.
I tried to hire a VB6 programmer. Like, I need you for 60 hours. Right. But that's so I think that's what it's going to open up as boomers age out.
We're Gen X, Steve. We're not boomers yet.
But I'm talking about even the older folks. That are still,
I'm just being funny.
Yeah. But I think that's the scenario, Bob. I think generative AI is solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's say you, Matt, you're more on the consulting side. So you're kind of, you're looking at the same lens I'm looking at, right? Where, how far have you taken this journey? I got one cool use case I want to talk about, but then, I want to get your viewpoint. Like, what are you seeing out there in terms of where it's at?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When cloud first came out, right? Everyone was talking about, well, just put it in the cloud. Put it in the cloud. Well, what does that mean? And the same thing goes
someone else's computer. Yeah.
Yeah. So same thing with AI, right? When someone talks about AI, it's like, or one of your favorite, like zero trust, right? Same kind of thing. Like it's such a generic term. And,
digital transformation.
Same kind of thing. It's just
marketers.
It's like synergies and things like that, like using some of these buzzword terms. But to answer your question, sorry, I went off a little bit, but
no, you're fine.
It means something different to everybody. And I think most of our use cases that we're seeing it is in that contact center space right now, because it's helping the customer experience with the agent assist kind of experience. It's helping with people don't want to talk to other people. Usually, like the younger generation, they want to just be able to solve it themselves, right? They don't want to have to pick up the phone and wait and then go through a menu tree to get to somebody, right? Yeah. We just want it at our fingertips. Anybody else to just click, or, hey, here's my order. That's what I was calling about because, it picked up on my recent order and it was delivered. They want speed to efficiency, speed to be able to move forward. So I think there's a lot of use cases in the contact center space and how you can use your phone and not have to have an agent on the other line for AI.
Sure.
Have you ever used or done any like address changes or lost packages or anything at the post office? They do this cool thing where you call them and then they send you a link and the voice prompts guide you through what to do on your phone on the webpage that it shows. It's pretty cool, like combination of the two things.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The post office even.
Yeah,
I know, right?
I was content as a human just having Copilot attached to our global SharePoint, so I don't have to put in the group chat. Does anyone have any experience with it? Does anyone know where that deck went that I saw a year and a half ago? Now they're like, I finally asked one of our chief technologists and he's like, dude, open Copilot. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like, again, it's all sitting there staring at you and ready to go. And it's like a lot of us, like, I don't know if it's just because I'm, a little gray hair, and, I'm not used to it yet, but I use everything else. So it's kind of bizarre. Anyway, I know you were saying. Well,
I was going to say my personal use case is, so I went to Normandy to do something for a charity that we'll talk about later, but I had to get an international plan, right? I'm like, who wants to call Verizon and have to go through all of that? And I went through their chat bot, and it was actually successful in giving me a short-term plan for just those 4 days. I gave the date range and everything like that, and it was able to figure all of that out, right, without having to talk to somebody.
You should have told me my Verizon bill when I got back from Ireland was like $300, and I even got the plan, but like I had to do my wife's too, because every time she texted someone in the morning. Anyway, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you guys on is I Steve, you've been giving back as long as I've known you in big ways, whether it was Angels of Hope and the CIOs for cancer. But there's a bunch of stuff going on right now. And we were talking about it at the last SIM meeting, and I wanted both you guys on kind of talking about the charities. Cause I mean, we're not talking about giving $100, $200. You're not doing like a drive, a bike ride. This is like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for like really, really cool things. So, let's start at the top. Like, I know the MTL's coming up in April. Let's start there.
Yeah. So this is our third spring summit, Sim Detroit. I don't know what 2025 holds, but 2023 and 2024 collectively 200,000 charity. So a couple years ago, a group of CIOs were sitting in a room, and we said, we want to do something different, make an impact. And we had we had conference partners come to town. And so we'd start talking to them. Hey, we'd really like to do this. And they're like, it's not our business model. So a group of us just said, let's just do it. We did. So Jeff Fisk is a CIO, very talented individual who's got a theater background. We got in a room one day and we started plotting this out. And somebody said, well, how are we going to pay for it? I said, I'll get partners.
Yeah.
They said, well, do you think you could do it? And I'm like, yeah. And we haven't looked back. So this is the third year, our fourth summit next year. And it really is just tied to what we talked about earlier, right? All of us have had somebody who helped us in our career. And so, I don't know how much longer I have to do this. I'll be 50 this year.
Man.
I want my legacy to be the impact we can make on kids who don't even know. So we're funding scholarships with Code 313 and Scholas and the Detroit Public School Foundation and Michigan Council of little kids that are going to come up. What do I want to do when I grow up? If they have the will but not the means to do something with STEM, we want to embrace them.
Sure.
We want to lift them. We want to do scholarships. We want to do, and there's so much good work going on in the community that we don't have to reinvent a wheel, right? There's too many partners that we can work with. You mentioned Angels of Hope. That's just heart-wrenching work. Right? That's kids battling cancer.
Right.
Heart-wrenching. Right. And you get close to that. And I believe in some ways I have a little PTSD from 14.
You have to.
But my ethos is, hey, if I'm not going to do it there, I'm going to switch over here to Sim. And Matt approached me about CIOs versus cancer. And I'm like, let's go. Right.
Yeah.
If I can give up my lunch hour, if somebody's willing to pay money for my lunch hour to have an audience with me, and I can help the American Cancer Society.
It used to just cost me chicken wings and a couple beers. Like,
right. When he approached me to say, hey, this is what we want to do. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm willing to play this, but I don't know if people are really going to money for my, turns out we raised $55 because awesome. A group of leaders to make their lunch hour.
Yeah.
And partnered with the American Cancer Society. They have a machine behind it to support this. But man, I say to people all the time, we're a group of IT leaders. If the HR leader, finance leader, sales leader, all get together and create this ecosystem, much better of a world would we truly live.
Sure.
That's how I look. This was something that I believe I was raised with. My mother was giving. We have plenty, and we can. It's just how I.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I kind of have the same. My parents are immigrants, didn't have anything, always gave back, always. It's kind of how I was too. If you can go do,
yeah.
Talk to me, Matt, at what CIOs for cancer, because that I just got introduced to that. So talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so we started that. It'll be 2 years this year.
Okay.
And we started out with it's called a clay shoot, right? So basically going out and shooting clays for fun. And we would raise money, and the money goes to American Cancer Society, but it goes for like early career funding for projects, right? So these young up and comers that have a different mindset of thinking outside of the box, and the money goes to fund those opportunities, right? Because we want to celebrate more birthdays.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And the first year that we did this, I didn't know what I was getting into. We didn't have any basis of an understanding of like, what can we develop, right? We had success out, and when we did this out in Minnesota, I'm bringing it to Michigan for the first time. We raised over $75,000 our first year just for that clay shoot one day.
Is that the one with the golf carts and like the 14 stations?
It is.
That's a blast.
Yeah,
That's so much fun.
You're going to come out this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beats the hell out of golfing.
It sure does.
You don't 4-putt. You don't lose your ball in the woods.
No.
Like you either hit it or you don't.
Take some aggression out,
Yeah.
shoot a target. Yeah. So
I got all the gear. So yeah, I'm in.
All right. You got the invite.
Yeah.
So that was the first year. And then the second year, which we just, completed in August, is we raised $100,000. Then we had the idea of, in Minnesota, again, they've got the playbook, so we're piggybacking off of it. And I said, well, we're going to do our first CIO auction. And this all ties back to networking, right? And building relationships and partnerships and having an understanding of how do you message something, right? Of where you can give back and put other people first.
Sure.
So our first auction we just did, we had 30 CIOs raise $60,000.
Wow.
And this is just having lunch. Like Steve said, all you're doing is having lunch and somebody maybe pitching you. It may be a mentor opportunity to say, hey, Steve, I paid for this because everyone's been affected by cancer, right?
Sure.
So maybe they said, you know what, Steve, I wanted to have this lunch with you. My grandma passed from cancer, but I'm also looking for somebody that can guide me in my career, right? You're investing in yourself at that point in time, but then you're also investing in, celebrating more days. So
right.
This was our first year, and it was interesting. And Steve, I don't know if you've seen this too, but there are now people that were like, man, I can't wait. I didn't get in on this, right? I want to do this, for next year. So I think we'll do even better next year, and it'll continue to grow, because what a cool story when you come home after a day of work and you can tell your family, hey, this is how dad or mom paid it forward, right? This is what we do for other people. And to be able to say, I was a part of raising $60,000 to help celebrate more birthdays and to fight against cancer is a really cool story.
I try to instill it in my kids, whether they picked up on it or not. But I remember like in elementary school, my daughter was like the loud one in the room. Go figure. Where'd she get that from? And I always said, hey, just do me a favor. Like, please, go sit with the weird kid at lunch, or bring them to your table. I go, I don't even know if you realize the power that you hold. And hopefully that leads into her, now she's at college and trying to figure out her life. But just, it's like a life motto for me. Just if there's that person sitting by them, you don't realize the impact you can have on someone's life just by reaching out, just saying, hey, it's a thing. So
those small things matter.
It does. Right? It totally does.
Hey, I like your jacket today. Right. Or I like your socks, right? Just small things like that.
It's kind of creepy though. I'm just, you got to be careful.
I said jacket and socks. I didn't say anything else.
Right. What else in terms of, I know you're involved at least 2 or 3 more, what, any other charities going on other than the MTL in April? I know you're involved in a couple other things.
Listen, I'm a huge supporter of the Michigan Council.
Sure.
Serve space.
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to be that big recipient. Also, we get our hands in we participate. At the end of the day, I've got responsibility.
Yep.
Lawyer, but I think we all want to do something that. So, I'll dabble all over I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right. And a CIO auction, it's like that permeates
Right.
Karen Secretary, CIO at County Community. She's back. All kind of clicked in, right? People that see all, we know that she's has that battle.
Right.
I can help research for others.
Sure.
That's easy. So, my wife and I do a fair amount of charitable giving, but I believe that it's not check.
No, teach them to fish.
Right. You use the skills you.
Yeah. My thing that I wanted to hang my hat on, and we didn't execute it perfectly, but it was called the Career Academy. And after years and years and years of doing these networking events and listening and talking to people, we want, do you want to get into IT? Did you never go to school? That's fine. Like, let's get you an A+ cert. Let's get you a cloud cert. Let's get you sitting at a help desk. You got to sit in that. So like we came up with this Bible, like you got to sit in that desk for 2 years. You can't move. But you got to have to figure out what you like. What's next? Do you like coding? Do you like security? Do you want to be a Linux admin? Do you want to get into data? Like what is it? And then at the 2 years of the desk, you get the hell out. And then, then 3, 4, 5 years, what do you want to do? Up or out? And we kind of, we did it kind of loosely where we, had certifications and we got people pushed and we had recruiting companies that were, God, I got to put some effort back in that because that was cool. People that were like, I've been in hospitality, I'm working at a hotel desk, I'm a bartender. God, I just wish I want a nice job with benefits, polo shirt and khakis, let's go. Let's sit it. And then my 3 rules were, I go, if you want to keep the help desk job, you got to do 3 things. You got to show up on time, you got to keep to your call times, and you don't smoke weed. Like if you can do those 3 things, you're going to be top of your class. And they look at me cockeyed and I go, from everything I've been told by all the recruiters, that's the bar.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you'll be a god in this industry.
And I think if you look back and Sim Detroit's built Rise and Soar.
Yep.
Rise is Soar. This is our first picking this up. So rising stars and organizations, other grow together. So I look at that and say, look at the state of Michigan. We say we've got a talent drain. The only way we're going to stop that talent drain is to provide kids.
Absolutely.
Right? Provide them opportunities, growth opportunities. Importantly, this program. We may have 25 students and we've got 25.
Sure.
That's invaluable. Look, my mentee will ask me questions. She's like, I can't. Everything is fair game.
Yeah.
Right. There's no rules here because, and if I think you're going too far one way, I'm going to bring you back. But I just give them that ability to be a sounding board for whatever's on.
Sure.
Right. And I think that's invaluable. I had the benefit of that. So for me to give that only helps them similar experience, an outlet that I had. That's that ethos of giving. Better, but by helping them be better, you learn a lot. Process.
No question.
Sounds like good dad advice too.
You learn a ton in the process, right?
Good.
Yeah. So as far as answering that question as well, I do a lot with the veteran community. Huge place in my heart, just for all that they've done for our country.
Right.
So Team RWB.org. That was founded by Mike Irwin back in 2010. Started out with about 5,000 members worldwide. It's over 200,000 members worldwide. And really it's when veterans, when they come out, right, the DD-214, and they're now civilians, there was a lot of veterans that were susceptible to, sitting on the couch and drugs and alcohol and just not having that community, right? Having somebody next to you that would take a bullet for you.
Sure.
So it was a way of bringing civilians into that mix to know that they've got somebody that they can support or that will support them. So giving back to like Habitat for Humanity, because, veterans want to serve others. They don't want to be served. And so doing stuff like that, and then physical and social events where they can do activities, get the endorphins going and things like that. It's been a huge outlet. So it's been a great community.
No, it's tough when you have a tribe and then all of a sudden you don't have a tribe in your home, So no, I love that. That's great. But hey, I can't thank you guys enough for coming hanging out with us. You guys are awesome. don't hit them up on LinkedIn and sell them stuff. You can hang them on LinkedIn to, Matt Spivey, Steve York, sincerely appreciate the friendship, and I'll see you at SIM in a couple weeks. Awesome. We're going to wrap things up. For the IT and the D show, on behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.